Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanne and thank you for joining me. I know I'm still getting organized, very unlike me, I know. Another early morning stream here for me in Australia, Melbourne. It's overcast today. I think it's might have a bit of rain today. So I'm really interested to hear from you today, and thank you for joining me. I know I'm just trying to multitask here at the moment. Something didn't load for me, so I'm just loading it up now. I hope you're all really well. Alrighty. Right, we're done. Right, so first of all, let's start off with the court. Yes, there's more fun. There's more stuff happening in the courts. This is a never-ending case by the looks of it. And we are just... Do you have bruz goss? Not a lot of bruz goss. I'd like to think I do. There's been some property sold. I know that. I can tell you that. But as to what he's doing now, I don't necessarily have. But yeah, there's definitely been some stuff being sold. So first of all, so on the 9th of February was the return of the subpoenas. Now, interestingly enough, if we click on the view orders, see, we've got another administrative hearing. We had another administrative hearing on the 16th. So we keep getting all these dates. And then we've got return of the subpoena on the 23rd of March. We just keep getting more and more. So the subpoena addressed to New South Wales Treasury be adjourned to return the subpoena list before registrar 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, the 23rd of February, 2022. Leave be granted for parties to approach the registry for consent access orders to be made on the papers in chambers. So you've got your trial happening in just over a month, and they're still getting stuff in that they're going to need in order to deal with the case. This is going to be it looks like it's going to be very costly. Look at all the court appearances and all the stuff. Hello, Chaotic. Are we free in Oz yet? We still have masks to wear. We still have density limits. We still have restrictions, but you know. So yeah, I mean, all I can think of is the lawyers' bills. The racking up of the lawyers' bills must be really, really high. So I'd be interested to know what New South Wales Treasury have got in their documentation, because they've actually been given, it's adjourned. So, and the other thing is, I know, and I've been thinking about this a little bit. Yes, you can buy the bruz's house. By the way, you can buy the bruz's house. The house. So this is the court case between Barilaro and Google. If you remember rightly, this has been long played out case. Crazy case. Yeah, so that's in relation to that matter. How much do you need? The Fox says. Well, the wife has got the Airbnb. I mean, she doesn't need anything else. So let's have a look. So this is the Daily Telegraph reporting. You've got the chance to buy the matrimonial home of former Deputy Premier John Barilaro. So it's going up for auction and it's being sold off. So the regional matrimonial home of former New South Wales Deputy Premier and his wife Deanne goes to auction next week. Now this is dated the 10th. It follows the couple's split after it merged. Barilaro quit state politics last October. She took full ownership of the Jerebombia home last month in a legal paperwork lodged with the New South Wales title officer. She actually owns this home outright. The home was built by the Barilaros in 2008, 5 years after the 1,083 square metre building block cost $207,000. The modern 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom family home is located in an elevated block in a cul-de-sac with valley views across to Black Mountain Tower in Canberra. So now we're going to go and see what it looks like. Looks quite nice. It says the lavish Barilaro home boasts beautiful views to Black Mountain Tower. Inside the home oozes luxury, fitted with all the mod cons. The premium kitchen includes a butler's pantry, a granite waterfall kitchen bench top. It also features a gas-heated saltwater pool. What, in Canberra? Bell Property Queanbeyan agents Ryan Broadhurst and Aaron put it to auction next Wednesday with no public price guide, although a 5-bedroom house recently sold for $1.775 million. So they've not actually stated what the house is going to go for, but no doubt it's going to go for over $1 million. So the Fox, to answer your question, you need $1 million. The Barilaro house with an entry atrium that includes an outdoor water feature comes with a study, home theatre, and gas-heated saltwater pool. Last October, the couple sold a Rush-Cutter Bay investment apartment for $1.52 million. So that was the apartment that the bruz moved into when they separated, his bachelor pad. That sold for $1.52 million. That was one that they jointly owned. The property separation is not complete as John and Deanna retained their jointly owned luxury 94-hectare Dungowan estate at Owen, which is available as a $1,950 a night rental for functions and getaway. There were 2 glowing reviews on Stay's booking site for January rentals after a gap in reviews since last May. The price has jumped from $1,850 a night 2 years ago. I guess you have to do something to pay those lawyer fees. This is a $5 million property. As you understand, we need to be selective. It advises prospective tenants. The property was purchased for $2.015 million in 2014. Well, rumour has it, totally clueless, he's bunked in with the new girlfriend, but there's not a lot of reports about what's happening there. The Queanbeyan-born Barilaro vacated the seat of Monaro, which sees the Nationals' Nicole Overall running against Labor candidate Bryce Wilson, a local. He has kept a low profile since departure from Macquarie Street, with no new company directorships or ventures emerging from the 50-year-old private citizen. Having proudly adopted the nickname Port Barilaro, he was slammed in a report this week by the New South Wales Auditor General over a government grant program that saw 95% of the money going to coalition electorates, and that's where we go next. So the New South Wales Auditor General has slammed both the former Premier Gladys Berejiklian and Deputy Premier Bruzman. So he may be keeping a low profile at the moment, and his wife is making a killing on property at the moment. Well, that's right. But it sounds like he's in a little bit of trouble. So a controversial $252 million New South Wales government grant program lacked integrity and did not use any consistent guidelines in awarding more than 95% to local councils in coalition state seats. A scathing report on the scandal-plagued Stronger Communities Fund, released by the New South Wales Auditor General, Margaret Crawford, on Tuesday, revealed former Premier and Deputy Premier John Barilaro personally proposed projects for the fund with little or no information on the basis for their selections. The auditor's findings also confirmed the government had never published program guidelines and instead favoured local councils that had worked constructively with them in the past over council mergers. On the same day that Crawford's report was released, the Sydney Morning Herald reported that more than 75% of a separate $100 million gambling revenue grant was given to coalition-held battlegrounds seats over the decade. Responding to the Stronger Communities Fund grants made in 2019 in the lead-up to state election, the Auditor General found a lack of formal systems in place, prevented accountability, transparency over government's approach to selecting councils for funding. Councils and projects were instead identified by the former Premier, Deputy Premier and Minister for Local Government and communicated to the Office of Local Government with little or no information about the basis for the council or project selection, the report read. There was no merit assessment of identified projects. The process resulted in 96% of funds allocated to coalition-held seats. The report found that the only records kept of the approved grants made to 22 councils were found in a series of emails from the staff of both Barilaro and Barilaro. That was interpreted in a briefing note to Barilaro as councils that did not take legal action against us. The audit found Barilaro personally identified 41 projects for funding, valued at $142 million, while Barilaro selected 188 projects, totaling $61 million. First announced in 2016, program guidelines for the Stronger Communities Fund developed by the Office of Local Government were found to be deficient in a number of areas, yet were still not used to guide funding selections, Crawford found. She pointed to $8 million in funds, which were earmarked before guidelines were approved. It's difficult to understand the merit of project funding decisions, and it is troubling that the Office of Local Government did not seek justification to support projects put forward with limited documentation by the staff of the then Premier and the Minister for Local Government, the auditor said. The auditor's report comes after a New South Wales Parliament inquiry last year found the fund had been deliberately designed to allow port barrelling and to punish councils which had opposed the government's controversial-led council mergers. Inner West Mayor Darcy Byrne is calling for his council and others that were missed out to be compensated. The Stronger Communities Fund was established to support forcibly amalgamated councils like the Inner West and Canterbury Bankstown with local infrastructure. But we were improperly prevented from even applying for the funds, he said. We still desperately need financial assistance for infrastructure, and the Premier should step up today and commit to working with us on a compensation fund. It's now time to act and show that he, Parate, is a Premier for all New South Wales, not just the blue ribbon Liberal electorates. Shadow Special Minister of State John Graham called on the state government to tighten regulations for grants. This confirms the worst fears that the public would have had about all these schemes. More concerning is that this could happen again. The Auditor General also examined the $100 million Regional Cultural Fund, finding that while there was a robust, produced, transparent and defensible recommendations for the then Arts Minister, Don Ahawan, he and Barilaro did not follow the recommendations on more than a fifth of the cases. Reasons for these changes were not documented by Create New South Wales. Hello, Bella Marie. Crawford found the integrity of the approval process for funding allocations were compromised because Harwin and Barilaro did not follow recommendations in multiple cases and did not document the reasons for the changes. The then Minister in the Arts, in consultation with the former Deputy Premier, did not follow the panel's recommendation for 22% or more than 1 in 5 of the applications assessed for funding. 34 applications that were recommended by the independent panel did not receive any funding. In the second funding round, 7 of the top 10 ranked applications were not funded. The Minister for the Arts approved funding for 22 applications that were not recommended by the independent panel. This resulted in around $9.3 million being awarded to applicants that were not rated highest by the independent panel, including 6 applicants that received grants of more than $500,000 or more. Most did not meet 1 or more assessed criteria and received low ratings. On Tuesday, the Herald reported how about $75 million of the $103 million raised from poker machine taxes was then spent on coalition electorates between 2013 and 2021. In response to revelations, New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet highlighted the positive impact of grants programs and said all ministers were aware of the responsibilities. Grants are important. People criticise grants program. I've seen on my visits to regional New South Wales a number of playgrounds and netball courts that would never have been built without grants. There is zero tolerance for pork barreling. I've made it abundantly clear to every one of my ministers they are responsible for those grants programs. There you go. So Bruz is in a little bit more, he's under more scrutiny. And in my opinion, it makes some of the stuff that he's saying was defamatory in his court case true. Remember, we saw that Google highlighted where many times there were reports about stuff Barilaro had done. So it's very interesting. But I just find that yeah, it's now that he's left, there's more and more stuff coming to question his integrity. You know, nobody is ruining his reputation. He's looks like he's done it himself. Well, it might help Google in the court case then too, because the Auditor General, for the Auditor General to slam them, it's a big thing. The Auditor General, just in case you don't know, the Auditor General checks the spending of public funds and resources by looking at whether they were used for the intended purposes with regards to economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. The Auditor General checks all government spending every year, and you know when they audit, so that's why they're called the Auditor General. They audit all the finances. So this is the Auditor General for New South Wales that has called this out. So for the Auditor General to say that 95% of the or 92% of the money was spent incorrectly, yeah, is very damning. In my opinion. So now we got the Bruz stuff out of the way. How is everyone going? Christo? Yeah, look, I need to find out. I haven't seen anything for a while. I think that was not till May. It's yeah. It's it's like yeah, it's yeah, May. It's not till May 2022. So we've still got a long time to wait. Unfortunately. Well, it has dragged on so much. It is very simple to prove. The video proves it. But again, it just shows you how clogged up the system is. And we all know. I'm doing okay. Oh, I'm doing okay too. I've just got a headache. I can't shake at the moment. I think I've pulled a muscle in my neck. It's just causing me a little bit of pain, but I'll be fine. I'm doing all right. And all I know is that the stuff that's going on YouTube in the YouTube streets at the moment is crazy, and it's interesting because since the announcement that Swanson's wants the settlement between Tardy and a certain YouTuber, that certain YouTuber's gone crazy, in my opinion. Then, when it was pointed out that after studying all the sentencing guidelines and being adamant, here's my thing, as much as I hate to say it. A certain YouTuber is saying that Josh is going to get 40 plus years, which is over the maximum sentence anyway. I mean, the judge is very rarely going to go over the maximum sentence, in my opinion. However, as much as I hate to admit it, if he was going to get, if his lawyers really firmly believed he was going to get more than 10 years, they would have plea bargained. There's still a chance he could get less than 10 years, as much as I don't want to admit it, and I don't like it, which means then that's good for him, not good for, but for a YouTuber to be adamant that he's going to get, 40 plus years or whatever is very dangerous, in my opinion. Plus, I'm not the judge. I don't know you can talk about the sentencing mandates all that you like. You can talk about discretion. But at the end of the day, there's things in the law that they have to follow, whether they like the person, whether they want to put the person away, whether they want to throw away the key. That's why there are rules in place to take that out. Yeah, it's 15 to 20 years. That's right, yeah. But that's right. But there is still a chance. I mean, that he could get less than 10, because what I don't understand. And don't forget that lawyers are pretty clear on this. There would be discussions on both sides as to what the sentencing would be like. If you're going to get more than 10 years, and your lawyers were going, we need to take a plea, that's what you do. Have you seen her latest Instagram post? Well, at the end of the day, and she's talking about the fact that he attended. Oh, did she actually delete that post? She's got photographic proof that he went to a wedding in November 2021 while he was on parole. Oh no, she hasn't. Following the update that I posted about Josh Duggar's attendance at the wedding of Hannah and David Keller, I sent a media inquiry to the US Attorney's Office. She didn't. A law enforcement coordinator told me the US Attorney's Office has no comment. This may be a better question for the US courts. I sent an email to a contact provided at the courts for clarification. She has not. No way. Here's the thing. Do you really believe that it would be without permission? So she says, photographic proof that Josh Duggar attended the wedding in November 2021 when out on bond before his trial. He appeared holding his newborn daughter, Madison. Dozens of unrelated and related children attended the event. Josh Duggar was to have no contact with any child while on bond. That the only way this was allowed is if his probation officer got the judge to sign off on the event. With his PO records being private, there is no way to know if this was approved, if this approval was granted. Jordan's face is clearly visible in the corner of the second photo. The judge specifically wanted him nowhere near his siblings. It's utterly disturbing that no one in his extended family seems to remotely care about children being around Josh. So anyway, that will be her next lot of videos. Oh yeah, this is her big post here. Hello, Rick. So she says, I have been on YouTube for almost 3 years. I've been writing and blogging for 8 years. In my first year on YouTube, I was bombarded by trolls and drama. I found myself caught up in the never-ending cycle of responding to someone's opinion about me. Sometimes these videos or posts about me do turn people against me. Most of the time, they do not. After my first year, I tried my hardest to get out of the weeds and not involve myself in drama. Over the past year, I feel I've done a ton to improve myself. I went through a lawsuit where I was disparaged and lied about through trolls. The lawsuit was dismissed. Wasn't that settled? It's a bit different. Trolls filed false declarations against me, committed perjury, and people made dozens of videos that I sent death threats, used sock accounts to threaten people, abused my child, and hacked other creators. What followed was months of horrific stalking where police showed up at my house multiple times. A stalker was attempting to swat me by claiming I was being abused. My son was being abused. My husband was holding a gun to my head, and that I was, in fact, hiding Brian laundry in my basement. I shouldn't be laughing because this is serious, but yeah. After the swatting increased, police and the FBI stepped in to determine who was behind everything. They did figure it out. It wasn't me doing any of the threats, hacking, swatting, abuse, etc. Oh, Rick, he's been away. He's been away for a while, and he comes back to the same old story. So I don't. This experience left me rattled, and I spent a huge amount on legal fees to end the abuse. So I don't respond to other creators anymore. I don't engage with any of these people. I don't know any of the creators that make videos about me. They are strangers and I have nothing to do with them. Therefore, I don't respond to any of them. Please don't forward me their videos or ask me why they don't like me. To me, it doesn't matter why they feel about me. Speaking their names only gives them fuel and brings people to their channels. Many of them are specifically trying to get subscribers from me by disparaging me. This is drama I want nothing to do with and has nothing to do with my work. Thank you for your understanding. So but yes, it was it was dismissed for jurisdiction. You are correct. Trying to create. Of course, I'm upset she's not talking about me, Eva the Fox. You know. Oh, she got me a lot of subscribers the last time. Oh, look, the thing is, I'm just bored with her. As Rick said, it's the same old, same old. So she's saying here. So she's saying that it could take him to a maximum of 19.5 to 24.5 years. No. So because she studied she did a day's worth of reading. But didn't someone just thought, well, Matt's been on Facebook. I saw a screenshot where she said that she wanted to be a lawyer, but her ADHD got in the way or something. I don't know. It was something weird. She's still getting that coin. It works for her. If it works, why would you change your system, hey? Since I've stopped talking about it, though, I'm bleeding subscribers, but that's okay because I'd rather have people that are here because they're here for the community than just here for for that. So, but yeah, the oh really? She was arguing facts with her lawyer sourced in that thread. Well, that doesn't surprise me because she's read the she read what it says. No one else can interpret it. Ella. Well, the FJ crowd, uh, I, I was going to say are more intelligent, and I don't know whether that's the right thing to say. We have more intellectual bantering, I think, is the right way to say it. I'm sure, and I'm still surprised she didn't jump on the. I'm surprised she didn't jump on the Barilaro Friendly Geordie stuff because Chaotic says, definitely here for you, Joe. That's the thing. It gets old. It does get old. It does get old. I agree with you. It does get old. And I don't, yeah, that's why I've stayed away for a while. The one with, now there was, I saw a document for that. Is that April? I'll cover it if I can, as much as I can, because it's harder for me to get the documents from the US because it's in the US. So I mainly stick with Australian ones I can get documents for. But there was a clip going around that she couldn't say a simple, like there was a simple word she couldn't spit out the other day, and it was so funny. Okay, I'm just trying to see. Well, she turned comments off this one because she was getting hounded. And she was getting she turned comments off on that one. Like people are asking her, look, Katie, just a quick question since you know a lot about this. Would the sentence be both counts be consecutive or concurrently? I hope he's not serving them. And she says concurrent is the standard of the federal court. He might do that. That seems to be, he might do that. But then again, sometimes it's about getting a document in court. See, the thing that surprised me with the Todd Chrisley one is that he never actually brought up her claims against his sexuality, which there's the video evidence for. I mean, that would be such an easy one to prove. That she, because of all the video evidence. Well, that's the thing. Plan to Create says, if I was JoJo, I'd keep working with kids. Well, look at the Wiggles. I know. Oh, that's right. She had to change that post because she had the wrong date. She said somehow my previous post got deleted. Well, yeah, because they've just changed the wiggles again, haven't they? She will never admit a mistake, even if it's just a day. I know. I know, they're all just supporting her and telling her how intelligent she is. And there was I need to pull my son out because I'm getting some heat. And it's really sad that she has to do that. Valentine's Day. So I mean, the speculation as to why the the investigation report, the pre-sentencing investigation report, is under seal too. Is, she speculated about that as well, but hey, I'd want it sealed too. I wouldn't want people like her getting hold of it. So yeah, the Twitter streets are messy at the moment. Well, it could be. I mean, we don't know who the victim impact statements includes. Yeah, just don't know. So anyway, I just thought you'd be interested to see all the latest bruz stuff. You can get some of the court hearing paperwork. Yeah, yeah, I could probably do that. I usually do. There are a couple of creators that do keep up with the paperwork that I could probably ask. For me, it's a bit of a time factor at the moment. I'm just all over the place. A bit of, yeah, I'm just trying to get into my new routine, and yeah, and it's all very interesting. Plus, I want to look at the Clive Palmer, Mark McGowan one. I mean, Clive Palmer's suing the Premier of Western Australia, Mark McGowan, so which is very interesting. That one's playing out in the courts at the moment. KJ's all over him due to his family, though she hates him. Of course she does. I mean, how? I mean, I don't. But Josh, the only reason why, if it wasn't Josh Duggar, she probably wouldn't care, if you know what I mean. So, an advocate usually, is on about every one of these cases, but she's only picked out the famous one. Mark made a point that the only thing Clive couldn't do was hand over. It's funny, yeah. His advertising for his political party is everywhere. I see 3 or 4 signs on my way to work on the Western Ring Road. It's really quite scary, to be honest with you. Now, you would have seen that one of the things that Friendly Geordies has talked about one of the things is he talks about corruption, and he talked about Mick Fuller. Well, Mick Fuller's in a little bit of trouble as well. So Mick Fuller was the neighbour of the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. Mick Fuller is the one that was responsible for the fixated persons unit. And anyway, newly retired New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Fuller did not declare racehorse shares to New South Wales government. Former Police Commissioner and Racing New South Wales Board hopeful Mick Fuller did not declare to the state government his co-ownership of racehorses with 2 wealthy businessmen who became embroiled in criminal investigations or won lucrative police contracts. Yeah, one of Bruz's pals, correct. An ABC investigation into Mr. Fuller's gambling and racing interests have discovered he'd submitted no conflict of interest declarations to the government until last year, raising concerns he breached anti-corruption rules. Mr. Fuller was New South Wales' highest paid public servant, earning more than $665,000 a year as the head of Australia's largest police force from 2017, before retiring last month after a 34-year career in law enforcement. He was the front runner to be picked by New South Wales Cabinet to join the board of Racing New South Wales, the horse racing operator and regulator, after Sports Minister Stuart Ayres yesterday endorsed him as a candidate of highest integrity. Highest integrity. Mr. Fuller was a cadre of high-ranking New South Wales Police Force officers, mainly from Sydney's Sutherland Shire, referred to within the force as the Punters Club. Due to their love of gambling, horse racing and rugby league. From 2015, he and 5 others employed in leadership roles within the New South Wales Police Force acquired shares across at least 4 racehorses from high-profile trainer and former drug addict David Van Dyke. Mr. Fuller's shares in 2 of Mr. Van Dyke's horses, Mad Magic and Once Upon a Time, gave him the right to win a proportion of any winnings. But they proved a poor bet. The horses barely made any winnings, or Mr. Van Dyke became entangled in doping scandals. Mr. Van Dyke, formerly named David Hayes, was fined 3 times since 2015 for banned substances discovered in horse races in New South Wales and Queensland. The trainer, who had much publicised past addictions to heroin and gambling, was banned for 3 years in 1989 after 2 of his racehorses tested positive for the illegal stimulant known as elephant juice. Mr. Fuller told the ABC he owned 2.5% shares in Once Upon a Time in 2019 and 2020 while he was commissioner, and Mad Magic from 2015 to 2017 before he was promoted to the role. The former cop and at least one of his assistant commissioners, Scott Andrew White, did not disclose the financial arrangements. Even though New South Wales Police Force policies declared the racing industry as a high risk for conflict of interests after the Wood Royal Commission 25 years ago. Under the New South Wales Police Force Code of Conduct, Mr. Fuller was required to make declarations at least every year to the government of any private interests, social activities, or relationships which had the potential to or could be perceived to influence his decisions. He only filed a private interest declaration to the New South Wales Department of the Premier and Cabinet last year after he'd given up the shares. The department denied the ABC's request for access to that disclosure. A former commissioner at the state's police watchdog, Patrick Saidi, called for an independent investigation to what he described as serious allegations. There's very little doubt, given the inherent dangers of involvement in the racehorse industry, and indeed the gaming industry generally, that declarations should have been made. Mr. Sadie, the former Oversight Commissioner at the Law Enforcement Conduct Commission. Whether it be Mr. Fuller or the head of any agency, disclosure is a very important part of maintaining the integrity of an organisation. He said transparency was crucial, and given the gambling and horse racing industry's history of connections to criminals and corrupt public officials. So Mr. Fuller and at least 5 senior New South Wales Police Force officials owned shares in the shares in Mad Magic and Once Upon a Time, with leaders of other high-risk industries, including the liquor, gaming and security sectors, as well as the sporting and media identities. Rugby league legend Ricky Stewart was among 14 co-owners in Mad Magic, along with Wizards Home Loan founder and former Celebrity Apprentice host Mark Boris. Other Mad Magic shareholders include security boss Sammy Shimon, Sydney pub chain owners Chris Foros and Marcus Levy, and Mr. Levy's brother, pet care tycoon David Levy. Former News Corp boss John Hardigan was one of 17 co-owners of Once Upon a Time. He told the ABC he'd agreed to take a 5% share in the Mayor in 2019 because of his long friendship with many of the police, including Mr. Fuller. But his some lesser-known co-owners, whom serious conflicts of interest concerns have emerged due to their personal relationships with New South Wales police personnel, entanglement in criminal cases, or both. Many of the businessmen had friends in senior ranks, including horse co-owner Assistant Commissioner Gavin Wood. One Mad Magic co-owner, David Levy, known to police by the humble name of Chicken Dave, owns a suite of companies, including a catering business that was contracted by the New South Wales Police Force at the time he joined the Mad Magic Syndicate. Mr. Levy's family are known for their multi-million-dollar businesses, including the pet kennel chain Pet Resorts Australia and his family's luxury car dealership, so I cannot pronounce it, which sells European sports cars. His brother and Mad Magic co-owner Marcus Levy also owns the Marvin Hotels pub chain. David Levy has catered to the New South Wales Police Force since 2012 through a food business, which employs a former police officer friend of Mr. Fuller. The ABC can reveal Mr. Levy's company, Osmark Catering Group, went on to win a $3 million contract with the New South Wales Police Force in 2017 after Mr. Fuller became commissioner. Oh, wow. Under the 2017 contract, the company secured a deal to provide tens of thousands of meals to police at major events, New South Wales Police Force functions and training for up to the next 7 years. The deal was triple the value of Mr. Levy's catering contract with the New South Wales Police Force from 5 years earlier. The contract was extended last year and carries a lucrative piggyback clause, meaning any other New South Wales agency can engage the company without a tender process. The New South Wales Police Force Committee that awarded the contract was required to consider whether Osmart's owners were under investigation by police or statutory body. At the time of the 2017 tender process, Mr. Levy made headlines when he became the target of a criminal investigation into an illegal asbestos dump at the site of the planned equestrian facility on his property in Arcadia, northwest of Sydney. This is getting worse and worse. The New South Wales Environmental Protection Authority recently dropped charges against Mr. Levy, but has ordered him to remediate the site. It continues to prosecute the owner of the earth-moving business over the incident. Mr. Levy just didn't have friends in senior ranks, but he also employed the husband of another high-ranking officer as a manager of his food business. Former police officer John McCusker, the husband of Assistant Commissioner Leanne McCusker, has for many years helped run a popular Sydney eatery, the Plummer Road Chicken Shop in Rose Bay, at which Osmark Catering previously based. Assistant Commissioner McCusker is a friend of Mr. Fuller and is also a frontrunner in the race to become a deputy to the state's new police commissioner, Karen Webb. Neither Mr. Levy nor New South Wales Police responded to the ABC's questions about whether conflicts of interest were declared in the tender process, nor did Assistant Commissioner McCusker answer whether she declared her husband's employment to New South Wales Police Force. In response to contracts and the racing syndicates, Commissioner Webb said any alleged misconduct within the New South Wales Police Force will be examined by the Professional Standards Committee. Where required, we will strengthen the policy. If it is established, it will need to do so, she said in a written statement. Mr. McCusker told the ABC neither he or his wife had anything to do with the contracts and did not financially benefit from them. He said the questions unfairly damaged his wife's reputation. Mr. Fuller declined an interview but told the ABC he was not required to declare his shares in racehorses, in which he described as a social racing syndicate. It has not been established I breached any policy, he said in an email to the ABC. I have legally and ethically complied with all government policies over my 34 years of loyal service. I bet you he got a nice payout too. Mr. Fuller said he never personally benefited from the business dealings of Mr. Levy, who he said he knew but had not seen or spoken of in 6 years. Last November, the ABC lodged a Freedom of Information request into the tenders awarded to Osmark Catering, which is now officially owned by David Levy's wife. In response, Mr. Levy ordered a taxpayer-funded review of the procurement process by consulting firm Deloitte. The review said nothing came to Deloitte's attention to suggest that New South Wales Police Force did not materially comply with its procurement policies, apart from one instance of an officer failing to submit a declaration form. However, the report said Deloitte's assessment excluded verification of potential conflicts of interest. The report did not mention Mr. Fuller, whose sign-off was not required in the tender process. Mr. Fuller said Deloitte review and an internal New South Wales Police Force investigation into the contracts have cleared him of any wrongdoing. These reviews unequivocally found that it had no influence or control of the first contract in 2012 or its rollover in 2017, Mr. Fuller said. The independent Deloitte's reviews have clearly shown I had no involvement or knowledge. Additional contract processes apply proper legislative scrutiny throughout the thoroughness and independent advisors. Hello, Bo. Mr. Levy was not the only co-owner in Mad Magic to become entangled in a criminal investigation. Another businessman, East Group security owner and former rugby league player, Sammy Chamone, was caught up in a high-profile New South Wales Police fraud squad investigation into his dealings with Parramatta Eel. He owned shares in Mad Magic with senior police at the time of the 2016 investigation into his involvement in salary cap breaches by the club. He was never charged, but in 2017, New South Wales Police told a court Mr. Shaman agreed to sign a fraudulent contract with the Eels at an inflated price so the club could pay a player via E-Group security in breach of his salary cap. The whistleblower in the case, former Eels CEO Scott Seward, was one of two people charged over the fraud and the only one found guilty. He walked free with a good behaviour bond and no conviction. The investigation took place before Mr. Fuller became commissioner. In his response to the ABC, Mr. Fuller did not address his racehorse co-ownership with Mr. Shaman, but said he did not have any personal knowledge of or friendship with all the syndicate owners. I did not scrutinise each owner via police records, as that would have been illegal, he said. The presumption that a social syndicate is corrupt or necessary of declaration is equivalent to requiring a declaration when joining a touch football team or golf club, particularly if a developer wants part of the club. Anything less is derogatory to Australia thoroughbred racing. Mr. Fuller and Punchers Club officers faced strict New South Wales Police Force rules around the conflicts of interest, so they must declare any private interests, including shareholdings and social and sporting events which have the potential or could be perceived to interfere with or influence their public duties. Obviously, horse racing would. It instructs all employees to assess any potential or perceived conflicts of interest that could be caused by their associations. Separately, police are required to declare associations with people involved in the activity that is incompatible with New South Wales Police Force, including people suspected to be engaged in criminal activity. Of that rule, Mr. Fuller said, "It's my knowledge and advice this type of social activity or ownership has never met the standards for a declarable association." His successor, Commissioner Webb, did not respond to specific questions from the ABC about whether Mr. Fuller and other police may have breached the policies and procedures. The ABC asked whether the police force or an oversight body had investigated any of the matters or allegations related to gambling or racing interests of Mr. Fuller. "I'm aware that matters have been investigated by an external oversight commission agency," Commissioner Webb said in the statement. "If new information comes to light, it will be investigated." So the Police Integrity Commission investigated Mr. Fuller in 2016 over a separate allegation regarding his involvement in the horse racing industry, but found no substance to complaint. They took no further action. So Mr. Fuller deflected questions about his shares in racehorses in New South Wales Parliament last year. At a parliamentary estimates hearing, New South Wales Greens MP David Shoebridge asked if Mr. Fuller sought any advice about whether owning racehorses or being involved in the gambling industry may be perceived a conflict of interest. "Are you suggesting that people who own racehorses are not ethical?" Mr. Fuller responded. "There are two rules. Judges can own them and politicians can own them. But poor battling police commissioners cannot do anything. I will just stay home." Poor battling police commissioners on $665,000 a year. Right, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller and look, Mr. Fuller, if you are poor and battling on that wage, you can give it to me. Mr. Fuller and New South Wales Police Force did not provide names of the Van Dyke trained horses or their past owners in response to questions on notice, nor did they provide the details of a third horse that were earlier co-owned by Mr. Fuller, for Danish. Responding to the ABC's revelations, Mr. Shoebridge said Mr. Fuller's insistence he did not breach any rules completely fails the pub test. "The fact the most highest paid bureaucrat in the state, a former commissioner of police, can't see a conflict of interest when it's staring him in the face, I think that's a very troubling matter. On any view of it, it's a breach of his obligations to actual and potential conflicts of interest." Why is my street popular from... Now Mr. Fuller is now seeking several jobs in the private sector. He failed after a failed attempt at New South Wales Racing and Rugby League. Commissioner wants to recruit him. So the New South Wales government blocked the appointment after a public outcry over whether it posed a conflict of interest. So, and it goes on about this public scrutiny. So they're saying other people who own shares. So Grant Williams, a senior Channel 9 executive and executive producer for Gun Affair, was hired as a New South Wales Police Executive Director of Public Affairs in 2018. After Mad Magic stopped racing, he had 2.5% shares. Deputy Chief Inspector Peter Fox from the Secretive State Intelligence Operation Command. Assistant Commissioner Scott Andrew White from the Office of the Commissioner. So it's a bit of a worry. Assistant Commissioner Wood was moved aside from his responsibility, leaving the Human Resources Command to... And he said, Fuller said he had no personal involvement in the promotion of Assistant Commissioner Wood last year. So... News Corp Limited, News Limited CEO and Chairman John Hartigan said in the statement he had not received any financial or other benefit during his time. Mad Magic co-owner Mark Boris told ABC in an email he never received nor saw any benefit from any police officer. Mr. Boris said he was an ambassador for the New South Wales Police Legacy Charity. He accepted speaking and presenting roles for which he did not accept payment, but rather requested donations to the organisation. So here we've got the full responses here, statements, and they've got the contract and the tender documents for the catering group. So it's a very interesting company that they all keep. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, so whatever's happened moved. So I just muted it for a bit there while we got that anyway. So I've been on for an hour. I've got to get on with my day. So thank you all for watching. So we'll keep oh, no, I was wrong. It's still going. This is crazy. So this is the tender documents here that they've got here. That for Osmart Catering. So anyway, so they've got all the documentation there. Anyway, so thank you for joining me. I'm gonna catch up again another day. So yeah, so Bruz's wife, he signed over, he let her keep one of the houses. She's gonna sign that, make a huge profit off it. They co-own their Airbnb. Still, and that price has gone up. So instead of being $1,850 a night, it's over $1,900 and something a night now. So, and Bruz is now a pirate. Yes, so it was about the police commissioner owning a share of racehorses and whether it was a conflict of interest by. Yeah, it'll be. So here we are. So yeah. So anyway, I'm going to head off now. So yeah. So hello to the replay crew. Make sure you hit the likes button and subscribe if you want to keep up with everything. Particularly. So we've got more. All right. All right. See you. Totally clueless. So thank you all for watching, and I will catch you again next time. Bye for now.